what do you know about Fleetwood Mac?
I know that, I mean, I've heard Fleetwood Mac songs. I know that when I hear Rumours for the first time today, I'm definitely going to recognize some, and I'll know what they sound like just because I know what Fleetwood Mac sounds like. But I've just never sat down and I've never actually listened to the record. I'm culturally illiterate, and I'm looking forward to filling that gap with your help.
Keep us together. The chain keep us together. We're running in the shadows.
All right, so we just listened to Rumours completely. We listened to the whole thing, and well, it didn't exactly blow Spencer's mind. What did you think of it?
I felt like I can see why it occupies the place in the canon that it does. I can see why people love it. It's not really, I don't think that being a 19-year-old in 2015, it's really meant for me. But there's some great stuff on it, and some really, really awesome sounds, like the drum sounds. Yeah.
Who do you think it's meant for?
I think it's meant for, like, I don't know, like a kid going to high school in California in 1978. Yeah, just like laying on their bedroom floor with headphones on. That experience or that relationship with music can probably apply to most records, but I'm just trying to think of some place or some way where that would really strike me. But to me, where I am in my life right now, it didn't feel like quite that different from other things that sort of sound like just the same ballpark that I really love, enough to be like mind blowing.
Yeah. What's the stuff in the same ballpark that you do like?
Well, I mean, it's weird because I kept on thinking of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, which are obviously a little bit before that, and obviously not quite the same thing in terms of like smooth grooves. But I kept on thinking of their records and that being like a more defined feeling for things like super many part harmonied choruses, or like on the minor key songs where it's like really sparse and really focusing on the drums and bass. I was just thinking of like Dark Side of the Moon, which like a really austere but like cool thing like that, which has more of an identity, and like I just kept on wanting to hear all those things, you know.
Yeah. So it reminded
I'm just
you
an idiot.
Oh. So it reminded you of a lot of records that you already love.
Yeah.
So you'd say that it's not good enough to revisit?
I can't say that about Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
I can't say that about a record like Rumours.
Yeah.
It's definitely good enough to revisit, especially my favorite songs, like the Buckingham Nicks songs I've learned are I think more in my area. I really like the more chipper ones.
Yeah.
Definitely good enough to revisit, but not to be like one of my all-time number ones.
Yeah.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone.
So let's talk about those chipper songs. I know since it's your first listen, you're not completely familiar with track names, but I remember like a huge reaction you had was to The Chain, which coincidentally is also my favorite Fleetwood Mac song. And I hope me telling you that is my favorite Fleetwood Mac song like didn't like really mess it up for you. But like, what about that song did you like?
That chorus is just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a scientific experiment by any means in the first place, but no, that song is just like, when that comes in, it's so badass, and the round, the vocals or whatever the vocals and round, but like that groove that comes in is so cool. the rest of the song is okay. That part is awesome, and I'm sure I've heard that in a bowling alley somewhere in my life.
Probably the first things doing rock and roll, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, so going into this, you didn't really, when I asked you, what did you know about Fleetwood Mac, you said that Lindsay Buckingham shows up. And so when we were listening, I told you a very brief Cliff Notes version of the backstory about the interband drama, everyone breaking up, the drugs and all that. So did knowing the conflict kind of color your version of the songs? Because I feel like for a lot of people, the story is almost as integral to the record as the record itself.
I really don't think so, because when you mentioned that to me, it made me think of like Richard and Linda Thompson's "I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight," and to me that's an example of a record where knowing that really influenced. Well, that record would be impactful emotionally no matter what. It's just that beautiful, and Linda Thompson can't sing in a way that isn't like that emotional. But knowing that, I think really helps, because it's like it really changes the way you view the lyrics, and it's beautiful that they continue to make that music together despite being divorced and obviously growing into a different relationship. There's something like just cool and interesting about them transcending that to still make a classic record. And I didn't feel the same way about Rumours with that story, because maybe because it's more than one couple, maybe because it's just like different music, but it didn't inform it the same way that like I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight does for me.
You can go your own way. You can call it another lonely day.
What was your expectation going in compared to, did it like exceed your expectations, or did it sort of like land where you thought it was going to be?
I think it landed where I thought it was going to be. I think I might have even had higher expectations, just because it's so beloved, and because I know I like some Fleetwood Mac songs that I've heard on the radio or whatever, but it all. I guess maybe it's because I wasn't expecting quite as many like cymbal tapping sparse songs, like those ones, but there's great stuff on it, and it's no record is worth burning. You know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So since you're a drummer, what about those cymbal taps? Do you not like?
Yeah, well, that's the third time I've mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
What do I not like about that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like that. I just think that it's like precious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that like it's really delicate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like melodramatic drumming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't feel like I have the authority to say that, but it's like, but it just
watch the YouTube comments stroll in a couple weeks. Yeah.
there's a type of drumming like that with intense attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
That's truly attention to detail, like Glenn Coachy and Wilco's drumming. If you look at him spend like a loving gaze at a spring on a snare drum, that's really cool because it's all about creating that sound.
Right.
But when it's like it's like it's just you're just taking up space.
There were a lot of times throughout the record that you did like Mick Fleetwood's drum tone, like, especially during. Even though that a lot of those slower songs did have the cymbals, like there was also some great tone.
What's the word? The compromises on those songs is like when they get sparse and they open up, and then it's like all drums and bass, and it sounds. I don't think it was possible to not make that sound as cool as it does at that time. It was just like every drum set was awesome, and every studio sounded great. So, so yeah, when those songs open up and it's just them, it's really, really cool.
Cool. So I think for the final question, I think we're going to use the Red Eye rating system. And I know, as someone who reviews music, I would rightfully get fired if I reviewed an album after only listening to it once.
Yeah.
You're not employed by Red Eye, so it's totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
So out of 4 stars, what would you give Rumours?
3.
3. So
it's heretical. It's ridiculous.
I think for a while, because when Fleetwood Mac was popular, I think that a lot of people were positive on the record, but I think in the last like 10 years, that this record has become sort of like regarded as a classic. You know, I think like in the 90s, like no one was like go to a record store and be like, yeah man, Fleetwood Mac. And I think now that like a different generation is growing up, parents' records that were like pretty cool, I think Fleetwood Mac is like, now it's...
Plus, Stevie Nicks, rightfully so, occupies a legendary place in music history.
Yeah, I think every time she sings on the record, it's a great moment.
It is, yeah. And I think those are the ones I liked. No offense, Kristen.
So maybe the Buckingham Nicks records are going to be next.
Those are next for me, I think, for sure.
All right, well, thanks so much. This was really fun. All right, 3 stars for Rumours.